Hello, everybody. We are finally back here. It was a bit of a long break, but we are once again in the Proving Ground Circuit Qualifiers, number 2 of the summer split. My name is Grapes, joined here by a couple of very, very great guests. First of all, we got Veteran. Veteran, I know we have been on shows together before, but it's nice to get some formal conversations going here on the desk this time around.
Oh yeah, fantastic to be here. Great to see you. Great to see Solaria back, and great to see more NA amateur talent show us what they've got.
Absolutely, and Solaria, and once again returning as a guest here, frequent guest here on the Proving Ground Circuit broadcast, but that's just because of how much we love you, how much we love all of your insights. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm always happy to be back on the desk. I love being here. It's just a good time, and I'm so ready. I'm so ready.
I mean, I think that's the good thing. We had a week off. We had the open qualifiers happen almost 2 weeks ago at this point, but finally back here. More group stage action to go, and just really excited for the games that we have lined up today on the Academy stream. But we do have a bit of a video here by our friend Deserex to explain the format of the Proving Ground Circuit Qualifier, just to catch everybody up. So let's run that right now. Deserex, take it away.
Welcome to the Summer Proving Ground Circuit Qualifier, presented by Unify. 32 teams will compete in a 5-round Swiss Open qualifier to decide who will advance to the 16-team group stage. The Swiss format matches teams with the same record against each other as the rounds progress. This means in round 2, the 1-0 teams will play each other, while the 0-1 teams will do battle, and so on. The 16 teams to reach 3 wins by the end of round 5 will move on to the group stage, where they will be seeded based on their results in the Swiss. Each group will play in a best-of-3 double elimination bracket to decide who will advance to the playoff stage. The playoffs will be single elimination best-of-3 matches up until the grand final best-of-5 series. Teams will earn points based on their overall performance. Here's how the numbers break down. The top 10 amateur teams across both of the Proving Ground Circuit qualifiers will qualify for the Proving Grounds. Which of these aspiring champions will rise to the top in the summer of 2022? Come see for yourself.
Thank you very much, Eric. Always nice to get that little refresher as we take a look at the points that we went through in the first Proving Ground Circuit Qualifier tournament. Of course, 100 Thieves Next sitting at that top spot right now with that full finals victory, as well as the 5 wins that they got in the open qualifier in the first tournament as well. But a lot of really strong teams alongside here, and there's just a lot of really incredible talent here that is going to be fighting for these spots, those 10 crucial positions to enter the Proving Grounds that will happen a little bit later in a couple of months here. And Veteran, I know that there's a lot of really strong teams here. Cincinnati Fear also looked really good after their finals run, and I mean, I'm just excited to see, what teams really start to step up next time around.
I mean, Fear were completely unexpected to go this far. Almost every victory that they had was an upset. They were almost always against the desk on that one. For me, looking at this though, I'm still so sad about Jake's Kitten's final placement. They could have easily taken the whole thing if it wasn't for those last minute substitutes. That whole thing was a whole mess. Justice for them, but yeah, I hope we get another team like Cincinnati Fear where we just don't know the ceiling on that team, how far they actually will go, and where they just prove everyone wrong. Really simple systems, really good performances by particularly their AD carry, and they were able to carry it all the way through. Hope to see something like that again.
Yeah, and if you take a look at the contending teams on the right side, Third Party, unfortunately, will not be competing the rest of the way due to not qualifying into the next event. But we also have Supernova, Maryville, and Counterlogic Gaming Faith. Solaria, I know there's a lot of teams here that are kind of on this bubble here. Are there any teams here that are specifically sticking out to you?
Oh, absolutely. I'm personally amazed that Chronologic Gaming Faith is so far down the list. I really expected them to be a lot higher up. So I'm excited to see how they do this time. And yeah, I mean, I have my eyes on them, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, definitely that area around the bubble is going to be really important because, again, only the top 10 teams make it into Proving Grounds, and we're at that stage where about 12 to 15, even 16 teams are like in the position to try and make that run to the top. And so performance here in this next tournament is going to be super important. But of course, the open qualifiers for this tournament already have gone through, and let's take a look at the 16 teams that we will be seeing here in the event. Now, it is important to note that unfortunately, due to the inability to form a complete roster for this event, Jake's Kittens will not be competing in this second circuit qualifier, as Veteran alluded to earlier, which is really unfortunate because I loved a lot of the players that are on this team. So as we take a look at the group overviews that we have here, you'll see that unfortunately in Group B, Jake's Kittens will not be competing, and so Team Pending, their presumed opponents for today, will get that official win. And then we have basically a 3-person group to get the 2 teams to qualify into the quarterfinals. And as we take a look at the bracket here, Group A and Group B again. When you see Group B here, it will just be Jake's Kittens, unfortunately, being eliminated here. Team Pending will move on to face the winner of AoE versus Tempest Gaming. And we got the other matchup here on our right here, Group B, Solaria, 4 very, very strong teams, some of whom we've seen a lot and some of whom we're going to be seeing for the first time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, personally, Nowhere vs. Taco Gaming is going to be a banger of a series. I really want to see how that one plays out. I think 100 Thieves Next against Large could also be a really exciting series. Just these 2 matches alone have me excited.
And those are the games we're going to be covering here on the Academy stream. First, starting with our matchup today with 100 Thieves Next versus Large. But let's take a look at some of the other groups and the other teams that will be happening as well. It's been a bit of a chaotic day here at the desk, but we got our matchups here today: 100 Thieves Next versus Large, followed by No Org versus Taco Gaming, and of course on twitch.tv/path2LCS we have AoE Esports taking on the newcomers in Tempest Gaming here. So a lot of really exciting stuff to go over there. Make sure to go check out Read and Write and Regdor, who will be giving you the action over on Path to LCS. But I believe we're going to switch over to Group C and D right now, just to see the other teams that are here. Veteran, any teams here that you are specifically looking at to make a big run?
Well, I'm really excited to see OE Ginger Turmeric and CLG Faith again. They both made pretty critical changes, and their supports are some of the most interesting in the whole league. But if we're going to talk about deep runs here, I mean, Cincinnati Fear, they could try to pull off similar upsets, but they'd be going up against Maryville and EG Prodigies. Both teams very, very strong. EG Prodigies did actually get upset before in the last matchup. Maryville as well. They'd be looking for some revenge here on this bracket. So really exciting storylines here all around. Across the entire bracket.
Absolutely. Lots of really cool matchups here. We'll be seeing those 2 groups go tomorrow, but I think we are about ready to start talking about the game that we have on our stream on Academy today. Large versus 100 Thieves Next. Large, I believe, coming in as the 22 seed from the open qualifiers, finishing with a 3-2 record. And this time going up against 100 Thieves Next, who, of course, were our champions last time around. Veteran, these 2 teams played actually in that open qualifier with 100 Next taking a victory. And it actually looked a little bit closer than maybe some people expected.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, it could definitely have snowballed almost entirely under his favor based on some really nice level 1 play by General Sniper, but ultimately the really aggressive side lane play from Large was instrumental in keeping them in the game, in giving them a massive lead in the early game, and really it just kind of collapsed in their mid game. They weren't really sure where to play around, how to play around it. That seemed a little bit unfocused, but you know, we had some changes coming in, so we could see how that goes this time around. Maybe they can actually close it.
Yeah, but Solaria, it is still 100 Thieves Next. They're the most dominant team ever in Amateur. They have talent stacked all the way through and through. Of course, dropping the 1 game in the open qualifier to AoE Ginger Turmeric, but I'm sure everybody, all teams, all players, all analysts are super, super scared whenever they have to run into this roster.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think if anything, the open qualifier gave people hope that they're not that unbeatable. That they can still actually lose. But they are still the powerhouse of this tournament and just Amateur in general. Everyone sees like, oh, they're my next opponent. I hope we don't lose that bad. It's not, I hope we can win. So I don't think this match will be a complete blowout, because I think Large, they have the ability to do it. They can be explosive and run away with it. But I think no one is doubting 100 Thieves' ability to take this series.
Yeah, and as we start to, I see Veterans maybe a little bit, unsure about that. We'll get to his thoughts in just a second. I'm going to actually throw it over to you right now, Veteran, because When we take a look at the teams that are going to be matching up today, they're a little bit different than what we saw a couple of weeks ago. Large undergoing a few roster changes here. We got Twitter legend Wolverine subbing in down into the bot lane, and of course in the jungle we have Reach, who actually played mid lane for, I believe, Virginia Tech here in CLOL just a couple of months ago. And even though Large, had a bit of a different identity with Inori in the jungle during the Open Qualifier veteran, I feel like I remember you saying that you think this might actually be a better situation for them.
Yeah, I mean, especially so on this particular lineup, the biggest issues that they had, or the biggest strengths that they had that they were playing heavily through, were both side lanes. So Kaiser Ward was actually able to get ahead on a variety of matchups. He's played Gwen, he's played Viego, obviously he can play Mordekaiser as well, but he's actually being able to pull off 2v2s, 3v3s around top side. The biggest issue is that they're normally playing super aggressive bot lane at the same time. Maybe if they both have success, it then becomes much harder to set up the map later. With Wolverine there, you're actually going to see a pool that includes stuff like Soraka that allows you to cross-map really, really heavily, or stuff like Veigar that gets really difficult to dive. Not necessarily stuff that'll get heavy priority early on, but stuff that enables these cross-map plays towards Kaiser Ward and basically makes their game plan a lot simpler than it was before. Shun was always playing all of these heavy roaming mid laners, so now you're looking at a team that's completely on board with playing towards topside, or at least has the potential to do so. And as we all know, for 100 Thieves, that topside is everything. So this could be a really good natural game plan you see with these roster changes.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like for 100 Next, of course, you're always talking about the top side with General Sniper and Fnatic being really, really dominant players. Of course, Lens and Sword having really solid performances in the finals, but of course, when you take a look at what Fnatic wants to generally focus on, is normally towards that top side. And it makes Solaria, I think it does make a pretty interesting matchup here when we take a look at the top side here for Large, because Kaiser Mord definitely is a player that wants to get a lot of resources, and now maybe with some of the roster changes, will be in a better position to do so.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is I don't think Sniper or Kaiser Mord want to play this lane slow. They don't want to win. They're not playing for the 10 CS lead. They're not playing to be up 500 gold. They're playing to be up 500 gold or more. They're trying to win lane and be volatile. I don't think they're going to play nice and slow. So this matchup could be really, really interesting based off how the first 8 minutes of the game go. I think we could see some massive gold shifts in the top lane, and I'm just excited to see how it goes down.
Yeah, I think that the top side, of course, in the early game was definitely important the last time that these two teams faced off, because Veteran Large won the early game, their last OQ matchup. It was just how they executed later on that really started to show some struggles there.
This could potentially shift. Like we all know Inori as a jungler, he generally does love to play for himself, and he can be that really strong carry for the team. But now with the jungle change coming in, I think what you're more likely to see is a lane-focused style of jungle. And in the mid game, how that could translate is that you no longer have any of these indecisions about which side of the map to play towards, because we're no longer playing towards jungler as an independent variable. We're playing towards probably Kaiser Mord, who's got some really far ahead top side from these cross-map plays with these globals and with this priority that they're used to shifting towards top side. They don't play around mid. If they do, they'll play around it towards a side lane. I'm not completely delusional on this. Like, what they're giving up is obviously they won't have heavy priority on bot side, so Sword could maybe make an impact midsection and make it difficult to play out the top side of the map with the numbers advantage they want to do from their potential new drafts. But if they're able to pull that off early game, and Sword doesn't do this, then they actually have a really easy set of moves in mid game compared to what they were doing before.
Yeah, Sword specifically is a player that I have been really excited to watch the growth of, being that former mid laner in a TSM Academy, now switching down to the support role, where Solaria, I know you play a lot of games in, and just speaking about that matchup in general, of course, the roaming potential from Sword is also there, but then you look at Lin on the side of Large, who plays a lot of enchanters like Janna, and likes to kind of stay in lane a lot and maybe try to dominate more in that regard. Do you have any thoughts about what position and what style of support tends to be better in this meta?
I think for this meta, I think enchanters are perfectly fine. I think they're perfectly good here. If anything, I would say enchanters are a little bit more favored over any other kind of support. But for this specific matchup, I'd be very surprised. I'd be very unsurprised if Sword picked like a hard engaged champion like Nautilus or Leona and literally just played 4-person topside and let Lens do their thing bot lane. I don't think Lens will be attacked at all. I think he's going to be it's the possibility he can play safe and have the support go top lane and literally just play topside and leave bot lane alone. I genuinely think this could happen, and I'm really excited to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that happens a lot with 100X. Of course, just focused on all that topside attention. And Lin, of course, while being an Enchanter player, I think actually also had a couple of games where he was, accumulating really massive kill participation scores, despite, being maybe an Enchanter player who might not be necessarily focused on roaming around the map as much, but just shows how cohesive of a unit kind of large was at that point, and hopefully with some of the changes that they made may start to look a little bit better as we head into this week of PGCQ. But as we just have a couple more minutes before we get underway, Veteran, I know draft is not the thing you specifically like to talk about the most out of all the parts of the game, but when you take a look at these two teams, they both have very specific, unique styles. Is there anything specifically that you're going to keep your eyes on here as we enter the pick ban for this first series?
I mean, yeah, for sure. So for bot side, obviously I'm looking at those cross-map champions on Wolverine like Soraka, or whether he's going to move into an AP champion. I'm really curious what he pairs with that. So say you end up with, say, a Soraka or Seraphine and Senna lane, you can also potentially get heavy priority, in which case the game plan for 100 Thieves, I'd be looking at heavy 3v3 skirmishing, right? So something like Wukong plus maybe the Rakan sword. I expect to have heavy Rakan priority on bot side with a champion like Kalista that can do really well in these early skirmishes. That would be their best counterplay to something like that. So it's not necessarily that they have to sacrifice priority on bot lane, just Wolverine's pool naturally won't allow them to get that unless he just bashes out some regular AD carries. But the support pool could definitely enable that and, enable further cross maps. So Senna could be something really big for them. Obviously expecting Galio, Lissandra, all this kind of stuff on Large's mid lane as well. But yeah, there's an alternative. Like, say that they take Solaria's advice here, 100 Thieves do, and they go something like Ezreal, so they can go Ezreal Bard, Ezreal Pike, Ezreal Rakan, and just allow full man on top side. Imagine they pick that early. I'm interested to see if we see a Kai'Sa, if we see a Vayne, something like that on the side of Large, and they just throw out this entirely and decide, okay, you want to leave him alone? We'll all in him with stuff that counters Ezreal, There are so many interesting things that can happen in draft. Sure, we're talking a lot about bot side play right now and bot side skirmishes, but this is the system that starts shifting towards the top side where all the action happens. And the question is, how does that system begin? What are the opening setups for it? How do we start that shift or counter it?
Can I just say how excited I am and how ready I am to watch Wolverine finally make his Proving Grounds debut. Always, talking on Twitter about how drafts to be and everything like that. Of course, was listed as a starter for Large in the mid lane, and then Scoon ended up playing the majority of those games in the open qualifier. But now in the bot lane, maybe not the role he was expecting to be in, but definitely exciting nonetheless. But as we just have a couple more minutes before we get into game, we got to let everybody know what the predictions are. Let's pull up the cast predictions real quick before this series just to see where everybody tends to lie. And it looks like 100 Thieves next across the board, which definitely is not surprising considering they are our former champions. But Solaria, I'm going to start with you. Who do you think is going to take this series and how many games?
I mean, I talked Large Up's potential to take this, but I really do think this series is just all for 100 Thieves. I think it'll be a 2-0 for 100 Thieves. I think they're just too good to predict against. I can't see them falling too Large.
Veteran, I saw you going like this.
I've seen 100 Thieves be vulnerable, right? And I'm also aware they have some flaws, and also, I'm not that delusional, all right? So I have to say, all the way Large here, all right? One team can actually do scouting here, and the other one cannot. The other one just has to sit there and pray that these guys aren't going to bring out the weirdest drafts imaginable, the weirdest topside play imaginable. I actually don't think 100 Thieves will ever play a team like Large. So if any team's going to upset 100 Thieves, it will be the unknown quantity and not the known one. So I'm going to have to side with them for this one. And also, you guys deserve a supporter, because I'm going to be real. You ain't going to get another one.
I mean, literally everybody else. I'm going to spoil it right here. I have 2-0 for 100 Thieves as well. I mean, that you're the only supporter here for this team, and that could mean a lot of things. I know that there's always questions about how accurate the casters are on the predictions and everything, so at least one of us will be right. Thank you, Veteran, for at least taking that sacrifice of being the lone person there, supporting the opposition or the underdog, so to speak, because it definitely is an underdog situation here for Large, as they have to go up against, of course, the #1 team in points for this Proving Ground Circuit qualifier, as well as just the reigning champions last time around. Very excited to see how this all kind of shapes out. But that's enough for us here on the desk. We're going to go send it over to the casters to get us into action for game #1. We're going to be joined by Rudude and wait. What's going on? Hello? Hello? What?
Wait a second. You're here.
Okay. Oh, where am I? Okay,
You were just over there though.
There's
What
a
happened?
there's another British guy here, and it's not a veteran.
But I do have kitchen utensils. Can I offer you kitchen stuff? How does that figure?
It's that the tea set. You got 2 tea sets back there. I guess that's just how
Yeah.
the double the British action here. But yeah, we're gonna do some double duty here, everybody. I'm once again Graves, joined here by Rude. Rude, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Recovering from an illness, but we're vibing, we're surviving. We're ready to give you a cast. 2 great games, 2 great best of 3 start us off on the Academy stream, PTCQ2 Summer. I mean, yeah, this is the best way to start it. You got myself, you got Grapes. Can't really wait.
I mean, the stakes just couldn't be higher at this point. This is the last tournament of 2022 before we get into that, of course, critical Proving Grounds point. And it could be the last event that that's a lot of these teams will end up playing. And Large specifically, they're a team that did not compete in the first Proving Grounds Circuit qualifier. So in order to make it to that top 10 next time around, they're going to have to make some big splashes. And I mean, a good performance against 100 Thieves is just step 1.
Yeah, I mean, it is the biggest splash, of course, to take down the former champions. It has already happened, of course, in the open qualifiers. We saw AoE actually take down 100 Thieves next as well. So it's not undoable. They are not unfellable titans that can't be slain. They certainly are, however, the expected favourites coming into this. I, of course, as you got to see on the caster graphic, expect 100 Thieves next to take this series. But there is, an element of truth to what Veteran says, believe it or not. He definitely raises some good points about all the changes that came through to Large. Those definitely have those benefits. They could also have some negatives. But I think that a really great point to bring up is that with them having all of these roster changes, it does make it a lot harder to prep on the 100 Thieves next side.
It was a really interesting point that Veteran brought up when we were kind of discussing how Large was going to do, because I think a lot of analysts, a lot of us, when we were discussing this matchup, were thinking, Inori was the best player for Large in their wins, went like 12-0 on Belveth, had a Wukong game where he went like 7-0 as well throughout the open qualifier. And so seeing him, not be a part of this roster anymore definitely left up a bunch of question marks. But I do like the way that Veteran described how this roster might end up working out a little bit differently and maybe slightly to their benefit, especially against a really good team like 100 Next.
Yeah, and I think that obviously with all of that being said, that with 100 Thieves next obviously coming in as your favourites, they certainly are expected to show up, and I think that even a 2-1 for them here may be something that they'd be a little bit hard done by, a little bit shaken by in that case, that they can maybe get rid of that first game, and if they find that as a win, I expect it to be a 2-0. I do think that if Large win that first game, there's a very real possibility that we do see a 2-1 for Large, that there is that chance, right? The elemental or the element of that unknown certainly could come to be. But of course, for 100 Thieves next looking to defend their crown, winning PTCQ1, they did this in spring and then got taken out in the second qualifier for spring. So there's that element of, well, they won the first one, can they win the second one again? They didn't do it last time. We'll have to wait and see. But it's a good start if they can get a good win on the board against Large. I don't think they've ever lost a first round of the bracket.
Well, they have lost games in the first round of the bracket. You remember back to the Team Ambition in the spring split. That's the situation that we've been through a couple of times. Not saying that is going to happen this time around, but we have seen falters for 100 Next at times throughout, whether the group stage or, later on in the tournament, especially as we get to the second Proving Grounds qualifier. Because if you remember last split, Rudy, 100 Next won the first spring qualifier super handily. When it came down to the next time around, Maryville, they came out, they swung, and they dropped our Titans down to the floor just like that.
Yeah, exactly. The second qualifier curse, I suppose, potentially for 100 Thieves next. We'll have to see.
It's only one split. You can't curse them just yet. Yeah, but they did
exactly,
drop the one game.
Exactly.
So,
but what if they lose this game? What if they lose this series? What if they get knocked out before they even get to playoffs? What if they don't make PG, Grapes? What about that? I think they make PG.
I'm like 95% sure that they already have locked PG.
Yeah.
Just need to
play
the rest of the games.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting conversation, of course, because 100 Thieves next is a team that, like maybe another team that we'll be discussing a little bit later tonight, is a team that maybe a lot of people were expecting to take down academy teams in Proving Grounds. But, just due to some of the circumstances, they really weren't able to do that in the spring split. And so now taking a look at this time around, with some of the new adjustments that they've made, of course, Lens filling in alongside Darkwings really well onto this roster, will be really cool to see as we head into the draft for game number 1. 100 Thieves next on the blue side, Large on that red side. That Rengar ban route is going to be something that we see a lot with Reach on the board.
Yeah, exactly. Reed certainly an avid player of the Rengar, as well as potentially that Kayn as well. We may see some bans targeted towards if we don't see jungle picked up in the early stages. That Veigar as well, very worth mentioning that this is a flex pick. Full large can be played by both Wolverine and Scoon relatively in their roles. I think that Wolverine's champion pool was, of course, a topic of conversation on the analyst desk, so we'll have to see if we end up seeing, you know, the things like the Kaiser being bought out as a potential surprise to us, or whether it is just simply going to be Enchanters support style champions down in that bot lane. Love to see these three bans, honestly, from 100 Thieves Next. They take away some fairly comfortable picks from three of the large players. Scoon, obviously, from the mid lane, we know likes to play that more facilitatory role. Something along the lines of a Galio would not be too surprised to see taken first. And of course, large here, getting rid of the powerful picks that you kind of have to. That red side ban prison, certainly something that we're seeing come through.
Yeah, and that's the power of being on blue side for 100 next, especially against a team with as many pocket picks and weird stuff that they can throw at you like large. You see the Viego ban? That's not a Viego jungle ban. That's a Viego top ban towards Kaiser Mord, who loves to play that champion on the top side. I believe solo killing Sniper in their open qualifier game on this specific champion. So it looks like 100 Thieves Next don't really want to mess with that again. Yeah, they're going to lock in the Kalista first for Lens. I think it's a really strong pick, but might actually signify a little bit of a different approach with maybe a more lane dominant bot lane.
Yeah, and what we tend to see with this Kalista is the Renata pairing, but we could well still see Sword opt into something like the Nautilus, like the Leona, of course, and go roaming. Really happy to see that Large is sort of doubling down on the Senna in the bot lane and going for a very versatile playstyle. Of course, Senna has this cross-map potential when she reaches level 6 with that Dawning Shadow. Tends to be fairly safe in the laning phase, which is, of course, what you want up against a Kalista who tends to try and smash, try and dominate in that laning phase to generate her own leads.
Yeah, I mean, the Senna, again, could be that flex pick. Don't know if Lin wants to play it or Wolverine. We'll kind of await that decision as we get further and further onto the draft. I will say that the Senna lane makes a lot of sense for large with Wolverine down in the bottom lane. Just not sure exactly where things are going to go. Could open for that Soraka on this R3, but we are going to see the jungle matchup here for Fnatic being evened out with that Volibear against the Trundle, and of course that Renata lane being matched up alongside Lens' Kalista.
A Gwen blind here is incredibly brave. They then have to ban away a couple of champions away from Sniper on this ban rotation. We'll see if it gets locked in or if they go for that matching of the bot lane prio. They don't want to try and hide that flex though as well. They lock in the Gwen. This now means that they have to ban away Riven because Sniper has taken the Riven into the Gwen a couple of times and 9 times out of 10 comes out on top in those matchups. That may be a discourteous fraction as well. So you kind of need to take away some powerful picks from Sniper up on this top side. Kaiser Mord obviously showing in the open qualifiers is a lot more versatile of a player than I necessarily had given them credit for coming into the OQs, but playing the Gwen, looking good on it up against particularly CLG Faith was certainly something that I was impressed by. Excited to see it pulled out again. Now we need to see if those adequate precautions are taken to allow for success in this top lane.
Yeah, because as well as Kaiser Mord played against, a lot of the different oppositions that they ended up facing in the OQ, it still is General Sniper up in the top lane. And, when you look at the champion pool, it's the Riven that you discussed, also the Jace, which works really well into the Gwen. Just a lot of really strong champions that can potentially be picked up here. It looks like we're going to see a little bit more mid lane focus, though, as we head into the second rotation. We see the Fiora, of course, towards Sniper. No Riven ban just yet, but as well, on top of that, we see that Yone going towards Scoon, and of course that Silas, which Darkwings is so prevalent on.
Yeah, and of course Silas has sort of been a pick that I've seen rising in the European regional leagues as an answer to the Corki, so there's a chance here that Large want to take that Corki now and keep that as a blind pick for the mid lane and then really shore up what they're doing with their composition relative to that bot lane. Well, that would be great.
Called it.
100 Thieves Next. Hey, do you want to read my mind? Do we read the play, read the Silas ban? Corki gets banned away, so that sort of removes that element of safety in the mid lane more so than anything else. Obviously something that isn't necessarily missing is damage from this large squad. They've got Gwen for AP, they've got Senna for AD. Granted, it's going to take a little bit of time for those champions to really scale up and get online, but large have what we imagine to be their mid lane and then a character in the bot lane to lock in.
Oh man,
is Wolverine going to play Malphite?
Dude,
is it a Senna Malphite lane? Are we seriously playing Malphite versus 100 Thieves Next?
I will say that Malphite is probably a solid blind pick into Sniper as well, considering his champion pool loves playing a lot of AD champions.
But where does the Gwen go, Graves?
This is just so funny.
Where does the Gwen go?
The Gwen could go bot. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you remember Supernova from 2021, but Rovex was playing all sorts of weird stuff down there when he was on the bot lane there for a team that did make Proving Grounds, by the way. So we'll see what ends up happening here. Of course, mid lane still probably a lane where you have to look at here to select for large, but already throwing out some weird things. This Jax, again, pretty good matchup into the Malphite. Not sure about the Gwen.
Yeah, I think it's a known counter to the Gwen, in fact. So, again, another matchup that fairly favourable for Sniper up in that top lane. Got one ban thrown at him in that second phase, and opts into the Jax this time round. Gives a very good split push opportunity for 100 Thieves next a little bit later on. And, of course, Jax's grouping in teamfights certainly by no means a slouch either. With that counter-strike, you really do tend to get rid of a lot of what Gwen and Senna alike want to get away with. The Yasuo locked in as well. A very good lane generally into the Azir, but like you mentioned, this like I feel like you're alluding to, could also be a pairing with the Senna down in the bot lane. You were talking about Rovex. This is a pick that he plays specifically. We've seen this in Academy as well. I think the Golden Guardians Academy busted this out just the week before they went on break.
This is why it's so fun to cast a team like Large, who has somebody like Wolverine who you know has a lot of different opinions about how draft should go, and also just different players with really wide champion pools. And so I have no idea what's going to happen here. Lin normally is a player of, you know, enchanter player, so the Senna could potentially be that enchanter player, or like that you would want to stick down there towards the bottom lane. But in terms of who you want to match it up with, you got the Gwen, you got the Malphite, even the Yasuo. Really not entirely sure where we're seeing these positions go.
It's a guessing game at the end of the day. 100 Thieves Next have done us a courtesy by picking champions that go in specific roles.
Yes.
Large have picked a jungler and then 4 indeterminate other champions that could go anywhere. I'm very excited to see what all of the lock-ins end up being, where we end up seeing the champions place, and of course that does, I believe, now get confirmed for us.
Okay. Whoa, okay. so this does...
Senna Malphite bot lane. Okay.
I will say, this is probably like the most like expected outcome of what maybe we were discussing. Of course, there's all the weird stuff that we were throwing out before, but this makes the most sense. Of course, you got the Malphite Yasuo combo that works really well in terms of wombo combo. Hey, you're talking about maybe a rather easy composition to win teamfights against one of the strongest teams that we have here in Proving Grounds.
Exactly. The combo needs no explanation, but if you really are struggling, 2 champions both press R, and damage is done. It's a really easy synergy between the two, and I'll be excited to see the overlap as well, because you do have things like the needlework, the Dawning Shadow to layer over the top of those. That's a lot of damage. That's also some shielding to come through for this large roster. Plenty of teamfight capability for them. The question is whether or not they can get there. The Yasuo probably going to need an item or two before he's relevant. The Gwen, largely the same issue when we've got the things like the Kalista who can really snowball through the early game. Up against a Malphite, maybe not so easy.
I just don't know what to say, Rude. There's just a lot of things that we have to take a look at here as we head into game.
But Graves, on a scale of 1 to 10, how surprised are you actually? You know?
No, I'm not that surprised.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a Wolverine draft, and Wolverine is in the game as well. So this is honestly the bare minimum. There's no Soraka, which I'm a little bit disappointed about. Maybe we'll see that in game number 2. But either way, very exciting stuff to kind of take a look at here. It's the first game of the second Proving Grounds Circuit Qualifier here in the Summer Split.
Kicking it off with, in probably the best possible fashion, with a Malphite bot lane. And this is a farming Malphite, of course, with the Senna in the bot lane, going to be racking up some souls for herself. I do think, though, that this is going to be a very difficult laning phase for Large. I can imagine Sword and Lens with this double range advantage really starting to punish the bot lane, and you can already see them grouping up a little bit. There's a chance that they go for a slight invade and just use that range discrepancy early on. No vision put down initially, and 100 Thieves Next looking to potentially get a bit spicy on the invade.
We saw this in the open qualifier game as well. Level 1 invade. It ended up being Kaiser securing first blood, but this time it is 100 Thieves Next going for the aggressive play. In onto the blue buff already. Reach forced to flash early. Sword's going to lock down Lin. He's a very squishy Senna, and that will be first blood in for the Thieves. Lens picking up the first kill of PGC Q2.
As if this bot lane wasn't hard enough, Lens gets first blood inside the first 90 seconds. That's perfect for 100 Thieves Next. They were saying the entire draft that they were going to try and punish Sniper solo killed Kaiser Mord in the top lane. We just ticked over to 2 minutes. There are 2 kills.
Well,
And the wave's pushing for Sniper as well. Wow.
It was still a 2-1 for 100 for large, his prediction. So, you know, still in the cards right now. But right now, very, very dominant stuff going on for 100 Thieves to start off. I don't know exactly how Sniper got that kill level 1 on Jax, where he didn't presumably have a jump. But, you know, we're just going to take it for what it was.
Yeah, I mean, Jax counters Gwen, because at level 1, Gwens tend to take E. If they take E, all of their damage comes from auto attacks. Jax, as a counter, blocks auto attacks. Surprise, surprise, Jax wins out in the 1v1. Now can Skoon potentially try and find himself solo killed in the mid lane. Darkwing's level up, certainly going to have the better end of these trades, particularly with this chunky minion wave, dishing damage back to Skoon as he dashes forward and starts to have a bit of trouble himself.
Yeah, Darkwing might have to step it up a little bit. You know, everyone else on the team has participated in a kill except for him. So, yeah, just saying.
Slacking.
definitely slacking at this point. Interesting to note that you know, Fnatic took the entirety of the bot side quadrant here for large. So Reach basically has 3 camps to work with in the first 5 minutes or so, which is not what you want to see. We'll see if he decides to opt for a vertical jungle matchup here. We see Fnatic going for the red buff right now, but it seems like Reach is pretty off pace if he wants to try and get anything back in this situation.
And right now, the thing for 100 Thieves next Slaners, the thing that you can just tell Fnatic will be saying is, do not die. This Volibear has one play, and it is to try and gank. So just don't give him that window. We will be absolutely fine. You can see that Fnatic doesn't clear his entire bot side jungle. Instead, going to move into his top side, try and contest Reed if he comes for this. Instead, you can see he's working his way up to that top side. Sniper, no flash due to the summoner spells. You can see nice respect being paid. Yeah, gets spotted out on that cone, and as mentioned, right, Reach has one play. It's to try and gank. The Azir's under the turret. Where's he going to go? He's going to go to that top lane with a pushing Jax. Sniper plays with that element of respect, and nothing is gained. Now Fnatic has a massive lead in the jungle as soon as those resets come through, and 100 Thieves' next lead just continues to extend.
Yeah, I guess basically with, you know, Lens and Sword securing that bot lane Scuttle Crab, and with the entirety of the bot side quadrant gone for Reach, basically it could only be one place, and that was top lane, and the plant basically confirmed the suspicion. So nice job by 100 next to do a good job at tracking the Volibear and making sure that those, you know, fabled ganks aren't able to happen at this point, because everywhere else around the map it's going pretty well. We see CS leads down in the bot lane, maybe not necessarily in some of the other areas, but right now 1.2k in favor of the Thieves.
It is worth mentioning as well in this mid lane that the Yasuo tended to be a very good matchup into the Azir. Of course, a fairly different style from what we've seen from Skoon, but excited to see what they can put up with this new style. Champion, obviously, very much a carry in their own right, not necessarily the greatest at facilitating for the jungle in the traditional sense, but you can get push and have priority in the mid lane simply through having better trades and forcing under the turret. Not necessarily the worst thing in the world.
Oh, Wolverine is really low. Wolverine is going to die. Lens picks up his second kill of the game, and Reach, who is just trying to shove the wave back in, is going to have to run for the hills, as it is now a double kill for the Kalista. Lin will die once more, and Reach might not have anywhere to go, but back to the grave. A triple kill in the 2v3 for the 100 next bot laner.
And gorgeous mechanical play from Lens right there. Uses the Rend to execute one, whilst also throwing the Pierce into the next champion that he wants to try and take down. That Kalista mechanic, certainly something underutilized, but Lens knows exactly what he's doing and gets himself a triple kill. As you mentioned, it was Reed trying to make the most of his time by pushing in the bot lane, saving Wolverine and Lin from a permanent freeze going on. But Lens and Sword just outplayed the 2v3. They get themselves 3 kills, and now coming back to the lane with the better components of an Immortal Shield Bow versus a single cloth armor and tier 1 boots. What are Large going to do down here?
Yeah, that's an item diff. If I have ever seen one right now down in the bottom lane. Lens is a player that, of course, is new to the 100 next team with, of course, Array getting picked up by Golden Guardian. So maybe a couple of question marks, as he was maybe a bit more unknown in comparison to a lot of the other big names that are on this team, but has showed up exceptionally well, especially in the playoffs of the last tournament. Glad to see that he's picking up the pace as we head into the second qualifier.
Sniper now in the top lane, going for the 1v1, Ignite down.
Okay, Kaiser actually still has another proc of the needlework here, and Sniper does not have that dodge once more, but he still does so much damage. Kaiser's going to dash back, going to secure the 1-for-1 trade. Finally, Large get on the board, but it's the cost of the life of Kaiser.
Yeah, and I think that with the wave state as well, Sniper going to be fairly happy with that one. If that top lane doesn't completely crash into his turret, his wave is going to be in a great spot and will be absolutely fine to continue trying to find advantages. Took a turret shot there to find the kill, but ultimately gives over a 1-for-1 trade. First kill of the game that Large do get it is onto Kaiser Maud, one of their potential carries through this game. This Gwen, certainly something to keep your eyes on, of course. Lin on a support and a half's income is how I tend to define the Senna's income. But obviously when you're not getting access to farming the Spectral Sickle because you simply die if you walk into auto attack range, it's going to be a little bit slower before Lin gets on the board in the generic sense of the word.
Yeah, R only has, of course, that Ruby Crystal and the Longsword compared to already completed boots on the side of Sword. We're talking about how he potentially has the ability to go on roams, maybe towards that top side, as we see right here, kind of, you know, with Fnatic up there in the top side of the map. But right now, it's just going to be Lens and Sword trying to assure their dominance in this matchup. Of course, one of the strongest 2v2s that you can pick is this Kalista Renata, and of course, one of the best lanes in Amateur is playing it to perfection.
And now we have to, of course, see what they could do with this lead. Obviously, Kalista, one of the best snowballing ADCs that we do have. You do tend to be put slightly on a clock, but that clock tends to expire very late on into the game, I will say now, with reworked items coming through in seasons gone by. And, of course, all the priority that this Kalista has got in the early game means that she's going to be so far ahead of the curve for so long that that late game drop-off really won't come for a very long time. And of course, with the Drake being secured by Fnatic earlier on, they've already used that bot prio to secure the objective down in the bot lane. Now with Dark Wings pushing in a wave in the mid lane, you can see that Fnatic is moving into the Rift Tower on the top side. And then the question is, where do they want to use that Herald? Which of their lanes do they want to expose?
Well, they want to focus down in the bot lane once again. Sword going to take a decent amount of damage, actually does not get the bailout in time. And Lens might fall as well, but not before taking down Lin. Overall, is still a 2-for-1 in favor of Large, as it looks like a bit of an overextension coming through from Lens and Sword.
Yeah, a little bit of a misplay on that bot side. I think that Fate's Call was supposed to be used to save Sword from that final turret shot, and then they have bailout as well for Lens if they time the execute on the kill correctly. But they still get a kill underneath the turret. It stops the Senna from farming up and getting to that powerful point. Fnatic on this top side, there is shadowed by Reach, but importantly as well, Darkwing's now going to come.
Yeah, of course, Herald still is available here, but it is a 2v3. Stormbringer will be used away, but Darkwings will swoop Reach right back into the enemy team now without a flash and without any other sort of escape. Doesn't look like much for the Volibear to do. It will be the first kill going over to Sniper, but Scoon has arrived alongside Lin. Large going to try to do something to stay back into this game, but it's a double kill in for Sniper, and Fnatic is still alive, making a triple for the Jax. Meanwhile, on the bottom side of the map, it is Lens again picking up another kill onto Wolverine, and overall 4-for-0 in favor of the Thieves, and going to get a whole ton of plates up in the top side as well.
Yeah, I think they're going to get a whole ton of turrets, honestly. That turret not likely long for this world, with the extra damage that Sniper will be able to deal with the time that he's got alone in the top lane. You can see that this is going from bad to worse for Large. It was a good little moment of reprieve down in the bot lane on the back of that dive, but 4 kills for nothing when it was a 4v3 on the top side as well. Essentially, with Lin moving his way up there to try and dissuade the play going so badly, was unable to affect the outcome, unfortunately, and overall, just a very good sequence of plays by the 100 Thieves next crew. Having the numbers advantage to start it all off, Darkwings with a great swoop, waited to see where Reach would put the Stormbringer so that he could follow it up with the shuffle, and now Wolverine has ult.
Oh, this is the desperation play here. There's the mouth by Yasuo. Lens is going to get bailed out, but I don't think he has enough damage to take down Lin. It is the shutdown going over to the Scoon as the Yasuo will finally get onto the board.
Some foreshadowing for how this composition will be executed. Of course, Malphite not just a great pairing with the Yasuo, but a great champion to play up against Kalista as well, not only because the map is CC, but also your E is an attack speed slow, and every attack speed slow on Kalista is also a movement speed slow because she doesn't get as many procs of her passive. The martial poise, she can't jump around as frequently, makes the champion much less annoying to try and play up against, and means that her bailout capability certainly nowhere near as high as you would like. Now Sniper, just tanking this turret.
Oh my gosh, he's just going to get the kill, isn't he? Yeah.
Wow. Doesn't even need the jump for that.
This
Incredible.
We were talking about how the matchup is really good for Sniper, and it's just gone from bad to worse. He's going to get the first tower now, trying to outplay a 1v2. Get the stun in onto Scoon, and now Reach doesn't have a whole lot of damage. Finally, the Dawning Shadow from Lin will shut him down, but what a play from Sniper. He is just so massively far ahead.
Yeah, really nice play in the 1v3/4, depending on how you want to describe the center ulti, but Lodge do get the kill back, and it does go onto Lin. Much preferred that it would go to the center rather than the volley there, if they want any chance of taking this game a little bit later on, but Sword just dueling with the center.
Yeah, now a numbers advantage in favor of the 100 Thieves next, but Kaiser is coming in with the teleport, does not have the needlework, but it is enough to try and ward the Thieves off. Of course, no major ultimate cooldowns available for any of them, but they are still able to make sure that that dive does not go through.
Yeah, and Fnatic just being right place, right time, largely. You know, got a couple assists up in that top lane, managed to prevent that bot lane play from going too awry. But you can see that he's secured 2 Drakes for the team. That Rift Herald as well went into his back pocket. All off the back of the fact that he was able to generate a nice early lead from that level 1 invade. Really good stuff from the jungler of 100 Thieves next.
And more aggression here coming from 100x. Fnatic, I had like a bit of a moment there because Fnatic was running from the red side jungle while he's on the blue team. I got a little confused. I was not entirely sure what was going on, but it just kind of shows the amount of control that 100 next have all across the rift at this point. They're nearly about to take down this bot lane tier 1 as well. 2 towers before the plates fall would be rather impressive.
And they've taken 3 turrets in the mid lane as well. And in fairness, this is no discredit to Scoon. He's been roaming around trying to mop up kills, trying to mop up plays. But unfortunately, they've just not been too beneficial. Darkwings has made 1 roam up to the top side, but outside of that, has been planted in this mid lane, has been charging away, chipping away at this turret as well. Taken 4 plates there as well. I mean, in a game where you take 13 out of 15 plates, that's a very good one. And they've still got a minute, so they may well take a 14th or 15th yet.
That's the magic number, right? You go 15 for 15 on the plate. Still have a minute left to do it. Of course, it was a backs for Lens and Swords. So not entirely sure if they're going to be able to finish off everything at this point, but it's still a 7.6 thousand gold lead for 100 Thieves next 13 minutes into the game. I'd say they're rather okay with the state of how things are going right now.
Yeah, I think you're not too wrong there. I'd say 100 Thieves next are happy with the game state would certainly be an understatement. They're probably licking their lips and thinking, okay, what's the draft for game 2 looking like? If we can rinse and repeat. But Darkwings, obviously, and the rest of 100 Thieves next still need to close out this game, still need to put the nail in the coffin. That's going to be another plate.
It's 14
Lens,
now.
absolutely BMing, making sure that that minion does die. No cannon creep for you.
That's the last plate. Are they going to be able to get the 15 for 15? Scoon taking a whole lot of damage. Already a Lee Andrews completed here for Darkwings. The wave's going to come in, so it looks like Large will retain at least one of their outer turrets at the first 14 minutes, but doesn't mean that much, all things considered. Just it's still 100 next, continuing to push their advantages. Finally, they get the 4 into the mid lane to take it down. Maybe about 7 seconds too late, but it's all the same.
It is all the same, and now they're going to rotate into the top side jungle, make sure they've got complete control for that. Set themselves up to take the Rift Herald when that spawns in less than a minute's time. Just really meticulous gameplay by 100 Thieves next, making sure that they're taking all of the resources away from Large at every given opportunity. Sniper has taken golems. He's been in that top side jungle previously as well. I think he took away a red buff at 1.2, so making sure that the resources for the red side are just as diminished as possible.
When we take a look at any sort of avenue for hope for 100 Thieves, for the side of Large, I mean, it's looking pretty grim at this point. Fnatic has been, you know, unrelenting in the pressure that he's been able to exude, getting all 4 of the major objectives pre-15 minutes with this next Herald about to go down. And I mean, for Large, you have to kind of just rely on some picks at this point, utilizing that Malphite Yasuo most likely to try and get any sort of avenue back into this game.
Yeah, Miracle Teamfight really is the name of the game, and I think that given the items that we're seeing in the inventory, I don't even know that that's going to be enough. I can see a world where they hit the 5-man Yasuo Malphite combo, and 100 Thieves next just face tank it, because if we look at the damage items, we don't have a completed... Well, okay, I say that, he completes it as we see it. Scoon has just finished the Immortal Shield Bow. Riftmaker had a 1800 gold pit stop into plated steel caps, and this isn't a full AP Malphite, not that we were ever expecting it to be, but this is a Frozen Heart Rush with, again, the detraction into plated steel caps, which has delayed that build path. Wolverine now overextended, like they're going to have to burn ulti.
We're talking about the picks. It's actually 100 Thieves that are looking for the picks. Of course, that Unstoppable Force now will not be able to be used offensively, as Wolverine has to get set back about 2 minutes on that cooldown. 100 next playing really well around the map right now, focusing towards this bot side quadrant. You have Darkwings pushing in the mid lane with this bot lane synced up. The Rift Herald pop mid will try to break open the base even more.
And it's so crucial as well. It may seem like a small thing, okay, they burn the Malphite ult, but what they actually burn is the only way that Large can generate their own advantages. That's now on cooldown.
Yeah, and now Reach just gonna get bursted even before he can land from his massive jump to the skies. Another kill in for Lens as 100 next pick another tower and another kill in the mid lane.
Yeah, beautiful again. Just a little bit too far forward from Reach. Ulti top side.
Okay, so Kaiser maybe taking a little bit of advantage of Darkwing's being slightly out of position there, but not going to matter too much. And yeah, this is certainly just going to be Kaiser going down. Will Fnatic get the assist? Does give up the extra gold. Well played by Darkwings.
Nicely done. Another swift kill in that top lane. Sword and Lens. They actually have a deceptive amount of CC to chain together between the handshake and the Fate's sealed. I have to see Fate's call, excuse me. Getting my Fate ultimates mixed up. But they could try and take somebody down with enough time given, particularly when Lens is fairly far accelerated in the game. 2 items already finished, that Rage Blade and Immortal Shield bow being completed. He has an absolute ton of single target damage to try and dish out, so even Wolverine, the alleged tank for the team, Rage as well, really going to stand no chance of trying to stand up to the Callista.
Yeah, and it's already Ocean's Soul Point coming in for 100 Thieves next, as it doesn't seem like there's much possibility for Large to steal away this objective at this point. I mean, a lot of healing on the side of 100 next. I like the purchase early of the Chempunk Chainsword by Lin, something we've been seeing more and more often in competitive play, just to get some of that extra Grievous on board, but it's going to be a lot to kind of battle here, a lot to try to counteract with all the leads that 100 next have already been able to provide.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh! Nicely played by Len. Almost got the combo once again, but
a lot of
remembered what
ooing
happened last time. Yeah.
That was, you know, he's remembered that one. That one's saved in the muscle memory. Not going to let that happen to me again. But no flash on the Callista means that is a potential target to try and catch out if you can find another knockup. Unfortunately for Large, that is going to come exclusively from Skoon and his own self-generated knockups. And, you know, has got that flash, so there is a world where you generate that knockup, try and dash through a wave, get a flash knockup in that instance. But Callista also one of those champions that can actually dash a Yasuo knockup very easily with the amount of movement that she does have. I'll have to wait and see whether or not Large can capitalize on that down summoner spell. But again, with no cooldown, or with the cooldown of the Malphite ulti not being there, very difficult for them to try and generate their own leads back in their favor.
Plays all across the map here. 400 Thieves next. Skoon again just getting, you know, shoved away from the likes of Darkwing.
Did get the blue though.
Yeah, that's a small win. Of course, no mana for Yasuo, but denying that gold is, of course, a bit of a positive experience for them. On the flip side, the rest of 100 next are sieging this top lane tier 2 turret. Not really much Large can do. They're just going to have to sit back, try to clear the waves as fast as possible, as they know that they can't take any sort of fight, especially without that Malphite ulti.
It's one of those games where 100 Thieves next are like, why doesn't Baron spawn at 17 minutes, at 18 minutes, right? They're just waiting for another way to close out this game. Unfortunately, they don't have like the greatest tools necessarily outside of this massive gold lead to try and snowball and take turrets down. It looks like just even the small poking under the turret that Darkwings had, that Lens had, was actually enough to force them away from that top tier 2, and Darkwings here in the mid lane. Not going to get to recall for free right there, gets interrupted, but still you can see that when that Baron spawns, you imagine 100 Thieves next are going to have complete control over it. Already 2 pink wards in that top side jungle. So there is plenty for 100 Thieves next to work with. They have Callista as well, so taking down that objective again, incredibly quick, incredibly easy. Azir, Jax, 2 champions that take down that neutral with a ton of speed in an incredibly fast amount of time. If you get that Baron onto all 5 members, we've seen Darkwings be able to handle whoever it may be, Kaiser, Maud and Skoon respectively in a side lane. Sniper, we haven't seen him handle people in the side lane in the last 10 minutes or so because everybody has ran away fearful of the Jax, but we imagine that he's going to be just fine.
Yeah, already 2.5 items completed. We're working towards either a Hullbreaker or a Starix Gauge at this point. Either one would be pretty good for this young top laner. Baron has spawned 26 seconds in. Surprisingly, still alive. Still has not been started up. But just as I say that, it's Fnatic and Darkwing looking to maybe 2-man this as the rest of the team works for other advantages across the map.
Yeah, Sniper going to get this without even having the Baron in his back pocket. There's just nobody that can answer him. It's going to be a full team effort to go for. But potentially Large can try and find their way in. If they get a big knock up in the pit, there's a chance they can do something.
We'll see. Wolverine's still a little bit far away. That Baron will go down. The hostile takeover will send the rest of the team running for the hills once more. So the Baron Nashor now secured by 100 Thieves next. And as you were saying, Rude, this might be the ticket back to another very easy game under 3.
Yeah, normally I like to call first barons economy barons to try and generate yourselves a little bit of a lead. Those tend to come through when the games are a little bit closer, when the game state isn't quite as blown open as this one is. 14k gold, 100 Thieves next don't need more economy, they need to end the game. So with this baron, they're likely going to try and break open the base, probably get themselves a fight and win off the back of it. Ocean Soul spawning as well in about a minute, you know, so that, again, another tool that they can use here with that Baron if they try and set themselves up on the bot side. Sniper's got TP, even Darkwings has TP. They can send one of the solo laners up to the top lane to force pressure up there, and then make Large have to make the decision. Do they want to take a fight that is potentially 4v5 around the Ocean Soul, and potentially lose their inhibitor, potentially lose the soul? They've got a lot of decisions to try and make inside the next 40 seconds or so, and for 100 Thieves next, it is just a very straightforward match that they can use that early game lead, and this is the raid boss time.
Yeah,
they're not even going to go for it.
This could be the limit test right here for Sniper, but instead opts to back away. Playing it safe at this point, and that's kind of something that makes a lot of sense when you're thinking about a team like 100 Thieves next. They, know that they likely are the favorites against a team like Large, but they're not, skipping any of the steps. They're making sure that their matches are as dominant, as easily won as possible here. Early flash out of Darkwings. We do have that dragon spawning in about 10 seconds, and it looks like the rest of 100X are going to be gathering around that.
But look at who's topside. Sniper with a Baron buffed up wave. He's going to chew through these turrets, even if 100 Thieves next aren't at the Drake.
Region Lin are in a really strange position right now. What will the ultimates look like here for Wolverine? The hostile takeover will stun up 3. Here comes the 2-man onto the backside here. Sword is going to have to pop that stopwatch, but the rest of 100 next is continuing to dominate the team fight. Lens will get the bailout. He's going to pop the stopwatch, and he will not die. A triple kill into the hands of Darkwings in 23 minutes in. Looks like that's going to be the game. Darkwings teleporting up to the top side just to make sure that the Nexus falls as soon as possible. That is game 1, the first matchup of the Proving Ground Circuit Qualifier number 2, going to our defending champion.
Not just to make sure that the game ends, to make sure that they end it in style as well. Scoops Kaisermord out from his mist. Means that stopwatch does nothing, means that the entire game is over. They get the complete ace, and 100 Thieves next with an absolutely dominant game number 1.
I would say that it's kind of what we were expecting, but of course there was a couple of things that we were looking at for Large in terms of maybe the avenues towards success, and I think a lot of that was towards the early game, and if they could maybe push an advantage there and somehow come away with the win. But off of that early level 1 by 100 next, they made sure that they were not, Large had no avenue to try and even threaten any sort of close game between these two teams.
Yeah, not just is it taking away the early jungle, it's also setting behind the support so that they're getting a little bit less experience in the laning phase. There were so many things that happened from that level 1 alone, and of course Sniper generating his own leads. I know that you guys touched on the desk about a potential topside play. Sniper generated his own topside leads, never really needed the help to begin with.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw, that's basically what we see out of General Sniper every time. It's him, outplaying 2v1s, 3v1s. I know we were mentioning before the game started that, maybe the 1v1 between Kaiser and Sniper might not be super, favorable. Maybe Large can 4v1 Sniper. Turns out that's not the case either. It seems all the same. 400 Thieves next as they look even more and more dominant as we continue to go throughout the tournament. And they'll look to make it a 2-0 sweep in the next game. We're going to take a quick break before we go back to the desk to see what Veteran and Solaria have to think about the match.